these similar words, and I was like, "There's no way, right?" So then, yeah. Um,
Um, there's a fair bit of quite solid, well-established linguistics now on at least the Aslian language.
no way, right? And then, yeah, that was between you and the floor.
There's a fair bit of quite solid, well-established linguistics now on at least the Aslian language.
No way, right? And then, yeah, that was between you and the floor.
There's a fair bit of quite solid, well-established linguistics now on at least the Aslian language.
No way, right? And then, yeah, that was between you and the floor.
There's a fair bit of quite solid, well-established linguistics now on Rod, something's gone wrong with the audio. It's repeating.
Yeah,
No, I turned on the YouTube.
There's a fair bit of quite solid,
So let me turn this off.
Rod, I'll mute my microphone.
Just mute the
Yeah.
audio for a second. I turned on the. So can you hear me now? So.
Yep.
Okay, so I turned on the YouTube streaming, so that's what you were hearing. So we're streaming now on YouTube.
okay. Well, it's 7:30. I don't know if you want to wait a bit longer.
I'll wait a bit longer. We still have a few more people. I'm expecting Kurt Endicott and Rosemary Giano to. So for those of you in the audience, so at least I'll say good morning, but good evening for many of you. So we're going to wait a few more minutes to start. And so if you haven't had a chance, please introduce yourself in the chat box. Malcolm, it took me forever to set up the YouTube stream. It was quite laborious. So. Right, one more minute and we can get started. Are you ready, Malcolm?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, we should get started so we can stay within our time frame. So good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever you might be. Welcome to the Spring 2024 Orang Asli Symposium. My name is Rodney Obien. I'm an associate professor and head of special collections and archives at Keene State College in Keene, New Hampshire in the United States. I have the privilege of overseeing the Orang Asli archive here at Keene State College, and I'm actually joining you from inside the archive. You can see, the OAA, as we often call it, was established in the year 2000 as a repository to document the history and culture of the Orang Asli. The archives consist of thousands of documents, photographs, publications, and artifacts that are open, and I emphasize that, open to researchers and individuals interested in the Orang Asli. The OAA digital collections are accessible online. If you look at the chat box, I posted a link to our digital collections and to our website at Keene State College. And the OAA is the proud sponsor, host of this symposium. And I'm very proud to host this. We're very proud to host the symposium, particularly since the theme is focused on archives and archiving Orang Asli cultural heritage. So in the past couple of years, I've received numerous requests to organize the symposium focused on discussing the importance of archives and archiving. So I hope, beginning with this symposium, there will be more symposia and conferences, not only centered on discussion, but perhaps also providing training for those who are interested in archiving, preserving, and digitizing Orang Asli culture. Today's symposium is split into two sessions. The first session will feature Dr. Nobuta Toshiro from the National Museum of Ethnography in Japan. And the second session will be a panel moderated by Malcolm Wong of the National University of Singapore. Hello again, Malcolm. The panel will include Dr. Aya Kawai of Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, Rita Rahim of Garai Orang Asli, Dr. Colin Nicholas of the Center for Orang Asli Concern, and artist and activist Shak Kyoak. Important to note, the proceedings are being recorded on Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. And I put the link to the live stream, YouTube live stream in the chat box. Before we start, I would ask that everyone who is not speaking or is a speaker or panelist, please turn off your camera and mute your microphones during the presentations. Also, please post your questions or comments in the chat box. I will do my best, Malcolm too, to respond. At a certain point, I think we will allow everyone to unmute your mics and turn on your cameras for our question and answer segment. And lastly, it is my sincere honor to dedicate tonight's symposium to the late Dr. Suichi Nagata, professor of anthropology at the University of Toronto and Fulbright scholar. Dr. Nagata passed away in 2016, and personally, I never had a chance to just recognize and just celebrate his work. And so some of you had the opportunity to know Dr. Nagata, whose work on the Orang Asli encompassed attention to nomadic economy, ecology, relations with, work on the Orang Asli encompassed an attention to a nomadic economy, ecology, relations with broader Malaysian society, and sensitively explored Kinchu religious worldviews and cosmology. Dr. Nagata's wife, Dr. Judith Nagata, is joining us, I believe, this evening from Toronto. Hello, Judith. I think she's joining us via YouTube. And so our first session tonight pays tribute to Dr. Nagata. The title of the session is Archives, Kinchu, and the Papers of Suichi Nagata. Our featured speaker is Dr. Toshiro Nobuta. Dr. Nobuta is a professor at the National Museum of Ethnology in Osaka, Japan. He has conducted fieldwork in the Timian community in Malaysia. He specializes in social anthropology. His main interest is the development among Islamization among the Orang Asli. His publications include the book Living on the Periphery, published in 2009 by the Center of Orang Asli Concerns. We'll also have Dr. Aya Kawai of Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, who'll be joining in with the conversation with Dr. Nobuta. So let's welcome Dr. Nobuta. Can you get online? I guess, can you?
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay,
hello.
okay.
Hey, Aya,
Okay.
Aya-san, are you here too? Okay. So,
Okay.
okay. So Dr. Nobuta, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Okay. I start my presentation. This time it's not my main theme, but I think I talk about the archives of Kenshu and the paper of Shuichi Nagata.
Mhm.
It's just a little talk. And also I have I am not good at speaking English, so Aya Kawaii translate. I have the difficulty to communication. Okay, this is share. Okay, can you see?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. そしたら、this time is, the title is Archives Kenshu and the paper of Shuichi Nagata. My name is Nobuta Toshihiro from National Museum of Ethnology, Osaka, Japan. Today's topic is my trip to in 2023. December 2023, I visited Malaysia for the first time in 6 years because of COVID-19. I had the three purposes of this trip. The first purpose is visiting my former research village, Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia. The second purpose is to visit facility to support children and adults with disability in Kuda. And the third purpose is to visit a Kenshu village in Kuda. Today, I will talk about visiting a Kenshu village as a topic related to archives. Before this, I want to explain the first and second purpose of this trip briefly. Especially, I will talk about the second purpose in a little more detail because it is related to the third purpose. This time, I participate in funeral rite in Negeri Sembilan. They call it meratos, which means that this ritual is to make a grave on the 100 days after burial. The person who passed away was like a father to me in the village. So I participate in this ritual. After that, I went to Sungai Petani Kuda by train. It is very fast train now in Malaysia. This is Merbok River. Over there, Jerai Mountain. It is a famous archaeological site in Malaysia. It is called Bujang Valley. Why visit Kuda, Malaysia in this time? I received email from Kenshi Tanaka, who is a job coach of Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. in Pusat Kuhidumat Setempat OKU. OKU means Orang Kurang Upaya, Orang なんていうかな people with disability, Bedon Kuda. He writes the following in the email. October, I think October 2023. He writes, I visit the Kenshu village as part of my duty. At that time, I was asked by villagers for Nagata's paper. The villager want his paper in order to protect and inherit their cultural heritage. So he want Shuichi Nagata's paper on Kenshu in Kuda. So I sent copies of Nagata's papers I have. It was a very easy task for me. Why visit Kuda? About why visit Kuda? My daughter has Down syndrome, so I have been conducting support activities for people with disabilities for years in Japan. Since now, I have been interested in people with disability in Malaysia, but I didn't have a chance to visit the facilities or etc. So I told Kenshi Tanaka of my desire to visit support facility for people with disabilities. So he agreed and arranged my visit to the facilities. So due to a coincidence, I changed my original plan. Original plan is visited former research village and near there to meet Corinne or Corinne somewhere, right? But I decided to change to my plan to visit Kuda in this time. So this is a Bujambare Archaeological Museum. This is a very interesting place for me. I visited facility of children with disability in Kuda. This is a place where Kenshi Tanaka, here, Japanese man, is working. So this is a care center for kids with disability. And this is a special training school for children, student with disability. This is a laundry work, training for laundry work, something. And this is a resident facility, and maybe Jitra Kuda, for children with disabilities who are unable to be raised by their parents. And this time I was very shocked when visiting this place because there were children whose hands and feet were tied and who were kept in cages. I cannot show photo or video here because taking photo was prohibited by officers. This is a national resident facility. But I took photo and video, but here I cannot show them. Here I can only say that the condition of children was so dear that the Malay ladies who accompanied us were crying. That's the place. And then next is about Kenshu village. So I go to Kenshu village in this visiting. These photos are when I visited the village, 2 or 3 hours only. And I visited with Kenshi Tanaka and his colleague, Malay man. Most of villagers are now Muslim, converted to Muslim also, maybe in your time. This is a kindergarten. This is a road of road near the road. Their village have were. This lady is Batin's sister. She she said, "Oh, this is my sister. This is my uncle." Or say she said, "This red circle man, this person was Professor Nagata at the time." She said, "But I think this is not Professor Nagata. This person was a Chinese Tokei." So here in this side, this is the photo of Professor Nagata. I know very well. Maybe I met him 2 or 3 times in Tokyo. This photo is provided by Professor Judith Nagata. I would like to express my gratitude to her. So, okay. He is a Batin of the village. He was the one who requested Kenshi Tanaka for Nagata's paper. Okay. I gave Batin the papers and the USB disk that Tanaka had prepared. Batin said these papers were necessary to protect their cultural heritage. And also he said that these papers are evidence that they have been living in this area for a long time, and that they will be useful when applying for land registration. I'm not sure about it, he said. I just only delivered the paper of Professor Nagata, but the Batin and the villagers was very moved. So they took pictures of the presentation ceremony. Later, this visit was covered by local newspaper, Utusan Malaysia, and online news source. This is what is called Siakap Kuri. And I was also interviewed by journalist Utusan Malaysia. The Facebook of Siakap Kuri, and there were almost 7,000 likes. I was very surprised. The people in my research village of Nguri Sumberan were also looking at the article and sent me message. And one villager said he is not なんていうか、カジアンだから、study ethnic 研修。he study ethnic Tumoan. That is a comment, I think. I see. Yeah. And about the Shuichi Nagata's collection, after that story, have. After going back to Japan, I was searching for Nagata's collection, especially photo collection of Kenshu. Coincidentally, I received an email from Rodney at that time. I asked if the Oran Asli archive had a collection of Professor Nagata. Rodney said, yes. Oh, that's good. So I think important archives. In this Kenshu case, the villagers need all the documents and the photos and papers about them. Especially current generation needs those of their ancestors. In such cases, archives become even more important. The important thing is that archive is easily accessible. Documents also need to be digitalized. The researcher like me can help and support to get information and give it to the villagers if they want. So next, this is these are なんていうか、研修 case. Next, I would like to talk a little about the situation of the National Museum of Ethnology, Osaka, where I am working. National Museum Ethnology have ethnic items of Malaysia is 2,1863 items. Oral Asli items is 298 items, including wood carvings, blowpipe, ethnic craft that I collected from later, and so on. But the problem, access to the database of the item is possible through the internet. However, there is no English version. It is Japanese only. It is a very big problem. The next, I would like to talk about National Museum of Ethnology repository. This repository is a database to store and provide digital resources created by National Museum of Ethnology. My book is also posted here, Living on the Periphery. This is a book that Colin-san published in Malaysia, COAC published. If you access this URL, you will be able to download it. However, most of paper in this repository, including my own, in Japanese. That is also a problem. So the Kenshu case in this time made me realize the importance of archiving. I think I need to digitalize following data myself and be ready to provide it as soon as requested. For example, photo also already digitalized, video also. Cassette recording is not yet. Dissertation on the Islamization is very important dissertation. Mainly University Malaya, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and yeah, and the Japanese papers and book is my Japanese papers, and most all in Japanese. So I will translate to English. Now easily Google or something easy to English, not published, but translate easy to English. So I have to do. So that's all. Thank you very much. Okay, my talk is finished now. Okay.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Toshiro-san. So before I open it up to just questions, so and it was just it was a total surprise to me that you had some of Dr. Nagata's papers. How much I have so I shared with you some of the audio recordings. Were you able to share those with the Kenshu at all?
Video recording.
Oh, the
No,
audio recording.
audio recording
Yeah.
also. It's already sent Tanaka.
Okay.
Tanaka sent to Kenshu people.
Okay.
They
I
listen.
said they listened
Yeah,
listened to it
yeah.
already. So
Very interesting. Then after that, University Utara Malaysia.
Mhm.
This is very important things they think. So Nagata's paper now, なんていうかな、ポス、なんていうかな、なんつったらいいのかな、their library.
Okay.
So naib chancellor of University Utara Malaysia came to village yesterday or the day before yesterday, and they have big ceremony at the village about Shuichi Nagata's paper.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Because
You can see the Facebook of University Utara Malaysia. They have uploaded its ceremony. Or newspaper also have covered it. So thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
So
If Nagata Professor Nagata have a photo of the Kenshu people, more better to
better. Yeah.
but I don't know where is. Okay.
I'm hoping. I know that Judith is on online. Maybe she has some photos still to share. But this is just an example of again finding the importance of the collection. And I just learning from you that you were actually able to share the materials. And so I think, yeah, and this is the focus of our symposium in terms of what is the importance of archives. And ultimately it's the importance I see is to Orang Asli, to directly. And so my issues are still trying to get the materials to them. And so that's a challenge for me. And I think for you, the challenge is that also, but also the language issues, because a lot of your materials is in Japanese. So I'll open up to some questions. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Dr. Nobuta? You can post it in the chat, or or you can turn on your mic and you can ask.
No, if no one's got a question,
Okay, go ahead,
start
Malcolm.
I can start us rolling off.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Noguta. That was fantastic. How, and this is a bit related to your journey, your trip, right? Your visit. What was the story behind these Kenshu villagers asking for the papers? Was there some like land development thing that they wanted to, or were they just wanting to file like a claim for land? And how did they learn about Shuichi Nagata's papers?
Oh, yeah, the villager know very well Professor Nagata, because Professor Nagata doing research here a long time, and they maybe they didn't know his death, his passed away, but Kenshi Nagata visited this village, and at that time Kenshi Nagata is Japanese, so people thing. Oh, Japanese. So do you know? Yeah, Professor Nagata. So some things. So they have talking about that kind of conversation. So they ask, maybe Kenshi asked Kenshi Nagata, Professor Nagata, but he didn't know. So he's searching Japanese anthropologist, Japanese researcher in Japan. So they ask some some people. After that, he came to me. So, I know very well Professor Nagata, and his paper also I have. So I just sent it. Uh, yeah, that yeah, it's just a little. Okay, thank you.
Rodney, there's a question in the chat.
Okay, the
box.
chat.
Yeah.
So where's the
Story about
to know where?
how does reaction?
Okay, yeah.
My oh.
Okay, yeah. The question
so-
reads, I would like to
Mm.
know when you brought back your stories and experience about the Orang Asli in Malaysia to your home country. How does the reaction acceptance from them?
Oh, this is not this case, maybe. This is Japanese people, what kind of reaction ですか? What is
Mm,
mean?
mm-mm.
The question mean. Yeah, this is なんていうか、very academic story, the experience. So Japanese ordinary people don't not so reaction, but I after I write Japanese textbook, Japanese school textbook, junior high school student, for junior high school student. I write about the Orang Asli. So now children というか、student, almost most of student know about the Orang Asli. Younger generation knows the Orang Asli in Japan, maybe. It's school text. So the reaction after, so is it okay? I talk, for example, I talk in the museum for ordinary people about the Orang Asli. があるけれども、not so much reaction. In Japanese people,なんていうかな、for about the Orang Asli, it is a harmonious to nature or something. They interested in their lifestyle. This, it's, yeah. Okay?
No. Malcolm, can I add something? Just now you asked about the status, why they asked why they asked for the materials. Actually, Suchi Nagata had written an article on that village, and it's called the origin of an Orang Asli village in Kedah. That area has been gazetted in 1957,
Yeah.
1958, So it's one of the earlier settlements recognized by the government, and it's the only village in Kedah anyway. So Suchi writes in the context of how the government takes care of the Orang Asli, especially in Kedah.
Yeah. This time the village is not the place Nagata, Professor Nagata right. They are already
Resettled,
relocated. Yeah, settled. So they know that the villager knows when Nagata doing research in the forest, in the forest place. But now they are relocated near the roadside. So very different from their lifestyle now, I think. So, okay.
And we have a question from Danisha. Hi, Dr. Nobuta. I wonder if the collection of the ethnic items you have covered the 18 Orang Asli groups.
Oh, okay, okay. Not all of groups, but Semai, Tumia, and Mahmri also, of course, and Jahud, we have, and Sumai, not Sumai, maybe. So I have a correction from later. Later, you know that the already other group あったかな I don't remember that, but not all. Some of the groups. Yes.
Are there plans to share I mean, they're mostly artifacts, right? Or just they're mostly objects, right? Yeah. Are there papers too?
What are the similarity
sorry.
in these wood carving? Similarity. Wood carving one is only Mamuri and Jafud only. Yeah. Yeah. The Rahmat Hidayat Sankara. I have a question in terms of Ransi disability. In Kuda, is there any state protection or social protection from the government? Oh, so yeah, Kuda is very good support for people people with disability, maybe also including Oransi disability. So Kenshi Tanaka visited the place because of Kenshu's Kenshu villages, some of the Kenshu villages with disability. So he visited that place. So yeah, it's I think it's very okay in Kuda. Yeah, Sumrai. I think it is. Yeah, Sumrai. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Later. Sumrai also. I think. Yeah, Sumrai. Certain rice used carving for building. Okay.
Okay, so are there any other questions for, I think one more question, because I think we're because of time. And there's one from Rosemary. Okay. Okay.
Okay. 成文前田立本 Professor
Okay.
Tachimoto papers on the Oran Ulu available in Japan. His paper, English version, published by Collins-san, Shuo-Eishi. And another は、なんだろう、Japanese はあります。Japanese version, Japanese paper, too many Japanese books or Japanese papers he published. Yeah, I have, if you want. I
may ask. I'll ask too. So, yeah. All right. Well, Toshiro-san, I think thank you. Thank you for
okay, sorry. My English
no. You're thank you so much. And so we're going to move to our second session. And this is moderated by Malcolm Wong. And Malcolm Wong is a graduate student at the National University of Singapore, pursuing a master's degree in history. His research focuses on combining anthropological and ethnographical work with the existing Japanese occupation scholarship to identify instances of continuity and disjuncture in Orang Asli experiences of the period. He hopes through his research to fill a missing part of the historiographical canon by chronicling Orang Asli voices and contributions, raising awareness of their current socially, economically, and politically peripheralized position as fourth world inhabitants of today's Malaysia. So, Malcolm, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and you can introduce the panelists for your session.
All right, thanks, Rodney. So for this segment, we have four formal speakers who will be sharing with us their work among different Orang Asli communities, particularly in relation to archiving Orang Asli cultural heritage. So after the sharings, I will open up the floor for discussions and questions. So for the sake of scaffolding our discussion segment later, I'd like the attendees tonight to keep in mind a few basic orienting questions as our panelists share their work. So questions like, what are the political ramifications of archival storage, along with politics of ownership? What about document access and use rights? Questions like, how do we balance out practical concerns of preserving archival material with politics of ownership and holding? And specifically for our context of Orang Asli, where many of the groups have a oral culture, how do we mesh the textual tradition of archival work with oral culture? And how does this affect the endpoint users, so researchers who end up using the materials found in the archives and preserved in the archives for their work? Questions like, how does one curate or even contribute to a collection in which you're not a subject specialist, right? Especially one as diverse as the term Orang Asli. And finally, stuff like, how do we even begin to define the term cultural heritage? What counts as cultural heritage? Who decides it? And who decides what gets archived and what doesn't, right? So with these questions in mind, first up, we have Dr. Kawai, who will be talking from an anthropologist point of view about the importance of archiving Orang Asli culture and the challenges that come with it. So Dr. Kawai is an associate professor at the Research Institute for Languages and Cultures of Asia and Africa at the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. She's conducted fieldwork in Batak communities. She specializes in anthropology, and her main interest is in the relationship between humans and the environment, especially environmental recognition. Her recent interests include how people readjust their social relationships as their livelihoods change with deforestation and development. She also started studying about the interaction between indigenous peoples and wider societies through media, such as photography and exhibitions. So, Professor Kawai, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello, can you hear me? Okay, I'm Maya Kawai from the Research Institute for Languages and Cultures of Asia and Africa at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, Japan. Firstly, I would like to thank to Rodney for this opportunity. And as Malcolm introduced, I had conducted research in Caraco, in Kelantan, and lived with Batak people, like spend life like this photo. But today I would like to discuss from the cultural anthropological perspective about the how the cultural anthropologists discussed about archiving or museums from the colonial period to this time. And actually, honestly, I used to have not a so positive image about archiving indigenous cultures. The archiving practice is open to the public, such as in a museum, and which is different from doing research. And I remember the post-colonial criticism I learned as a student and the problems and difficulties associated with archiving. Also, I grew up in Iriomote Island, Okinawa. This is my home island photos. In Japan, the island registered as a World Natural Heritage. It is a famous tourist destination, and many people visited my island. And linguistics, cultural anthropologists, folklorists, and many scientists did research in my island. And the experience in such a society also leads to my not so positive image on archiving those cultures. However, in the past few years, my thoughts have changed drastically as I worked with Dr. Rosalina, Prof. Rodney, Prof. Julie, Kalipa, Jeffrey, Angelina, and other friends. This is a poster of the symposium held in 2023 and photo taken by a guest from Malaysia at my university. Actually, this photo is from the Facebook of Gray OA. And today, as an anthropologist, I would like to share the background that led me to hold those my thought images and discuss the possibilities and challenges in archiving cultural heritage of Orang Asli and indigenous peoples. This is the structure of my talk. First, I discuss museums in terms of colonialism and imperialism. Then, as a second first, I will point out the connection between archiving and museums and nation building. I will also review the post-colonial criticism that arose during this period. And then I discuss current movements and conclude by presenting the positive aspects and challenges of archiving Orang Asli cultural heritage. Okay, natural history developed along with colonial expansion. In new lands, people recorded the local flora and fauna and brought species back to their homelands. They also recorded the lives and cultures of the local people and brought back to the material cultures. Various materials are separated from their original environment and society and transported and stored according to specific classification, and that those practices expanded the world from the center of the power. This is the about the Malay relating to Malaysia. Then the expansion of colonialism also created, protected, and preserved objects in the colonies. This slide shows an example of national parks created in the colonies in the 19th and early 20th centuries. With the establishment of estates and other frontier developments, administrators became more conscious to nature to be conserved. In Malaysia, George V National Park was established at the initiative of Hubak, the author of this book. However, the nature as protected heritage was different from the perception of the local people. With the establishment of this park, now called Tamanagara, Malay peasants were legally prohibited from using the mountain trails between Pahang, Terengganu, and Kelantan in the area. On the other hand, non-negritos, who were considered part of nature, could continue use the area. Here are some of the characteristics of this period. Various materials have been selected and collected according to specific value. Such objects were separated from their original context, assigned to a modernization context, or considered as something to be protected at risk of being lost. These practices were associated with power relations and brought about changes in the colony itself. These colonies became independent. Later, these colonies became independent. I will talk on the next phase of this process. After World War II, many countries became independent. Many colonies became independent. At the same time, the Cold War began. Many new nation states were born, and the East and West provided a lot of development aid to these third world countries. In building a nation state, the National Museum played a role in collecting, storing, and exhibiting the national heritage of the nation, including daily materials of ethnic groups, cultures, history, and nature. In addition, these museums were tourist sites for consumption. In Malaysia, Tunku Abdul Rahman decided to establish a national museum after independence, and museum buildings from the colonial period were used. But now, current building was completed in 1963. Around this time, in the newly born Malaysia, many development programs were also implemented for national economy. It was an attempt to modernize the society, and as development progressed, kampung lives and oran's lives were transformed. As people had involved in national development practices, they became more increasingly aware of their identity within a national framework. And in the 1980s, the Orang Asli Museum Gombak was established. Around this time, post-colonial critique discussion was increasing in the field such as anthropology and literature. It was pointed out that the lifestyles and cultures in ethnography and other works were the results of the separation from their original context and placed in specific contexts, such as colonialism and modernization. And more, these academic activities were done with specific power relations. At the same time, it was argued that attention needs to be paid to diversity within the community. The voices of powerful people in the society were often highlighted, while the powerless people's voices were dismissed. These discussions led to a rethinking of the framework that had been used to present cultures and ethnic groups. These discussions also relate to who decide what is heritage. Next, we look over the recent situation since the 1990s after the Cold War. From this period, more grassroots-based initiatives rather than colonial or state government initiatives have been revisited. However, that does not mean the challenges have disappeared or solved. There are many different groups among Orang Asli, and within each group, there is a diversity of people. How can we archive their heritage in a representative manner? In addition, certain image of the Orang Asli has been constructed throughout the history. At the same time, like natural, friendly, or something like that. At the same time, the way of life of the Orang Asli members has changed. How can we reconcile the discrepancy between these images and reality? In Kuala Kuala, where I have conducted my research, people dress up with flowers and go camping in the forest while using plastic sheets for camping tents. We cannot deny that this is not their culture or their authentic culture or something like that. In today's rapidly changing world, various objects became heritage. The next challenge is I'll talk about the other challenges. In today's rapidly changing world, various objects became heritage, making it difficult to store and needs more cost. And most importantly, while the lives that have created these heritages are changing rapidly, and certain epistemological framework is still dominant. In light of this situation, I conclude by summarizing the positive aspects and challenges of archiving Orang Asli cultural heritage. It would be desirable to work with Orang Asli members to archive their cultural heritage, as Dr. Rodney talked. Such an effort is expected to stimulate interaction among the people, transmit cultural practices from the elders to the youth, and restore dignity to the people about their way of lives. This will also allow us to relativize the dominant cognitive frameworks, etc., that have come to be questioned, and to examine the issues associated with those frameworks. These effects will bring diversity to society and will help us to view history in a new light and build a better future. But there are many challenges, of course. How to secure resources for the project, which includes economic, personnel, material, and special resources, etc. And also how to build an archive in which a diverse public can be interested and involved. It would be preferable to establish a place that can be visited by a diverse range of diverse people, as well as Orang Asli members. And how to archive cultural heritage that is representative, considering historical change and the current diversity in Orang Asli communities. And how to archive and pass on to the future, not only the materials, but also the cultural practices and cognitive frameworks that have produced those material cultures. This is references, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Kawai. So we will open up a discussion at the end of all the presentations. So if you have any questions, do either write them down in the comments in the chat box, or do take them down and we'll revisit them later. But for now, we'll move on to Rita Rahim, who will be talking about her own project involving Orang Asli alternative sources of collections, like private collections, and also talking about preserving cultural heritage from a non-academic point of view. So Rita, go ahead. I think you're muted, Rita.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, no. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry. Hi, my name is Rita. While I sort this out, sorry. My name is Rita Rahim. I'm from Gerai OA. So we are not technically a NGO or social enterprise. So I'm a bit of an odd fish out here. But I would like to share the things that our communities have done over the course of the last 20 years. So just to show you what here, it's my screen. Can you see my screen? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, yes, okay. Sorry about that. Lord, what is, sorry, my computer's acting up a little bit. Okay, okay, sorry about that. Okay, so anyway, just to let you know that the work that I do mostly is on crafts. So it's not exactly archival per se, but we do use a lot of techniques for documentation. And it has some impact on the communities that we work with. I mostly work with the Mamari, the Semalai, a little bit with the Semai, Temias, Temuan, and Jahut, and now recently the Jahai as well. And we might be taking on the Batiks too. So basically, it's that's the red shot of me trying to take a photo of a basket, of a Jahut basket. Okay, so for a community that is this small, it's less than 1% of Malaysia's population. And trying to even get data like this is already difficult for a lay person like me. And the only reason we got this data was because we are helping out with the COVID cases back in 2020, 21. So it's a very small population, but surprisingly, despite its smallness, we have quite a lot of Orang Asli craft deposited into different museums. The main museum being the Museum Seni Craft Orang Asli, or the Orang Asli Craft Museum. It's a museum dedicated to Orang Asli crafts, although it started life mostly with around the collection of Anthony Ratos, mostly the wood carvings of the Jahut and the Mameri, as seen in the main galleries. And then on the annex galleries are smaller material cultures of the other ethnic groups. It's almost somewhat of an afterthought, but at least there's something there. There are also other museums scattered throughout, mostly in Selangor. There's the Museum Orang Asli that's run by Jakwa. And then in Melaka, there's a smaller museum, also a museum called Museum Orang Asli, and that's in Aikro. We also have a small one by Jakwa up in Kelantan. I've not visited that one. I would eventually like to go there and have a look at that. And then there's a very small collection, mostly of Mamari crafts in the Craft Museum of Kuala Lumpur that's run by Craft Tangan Malaysia. So different bodies seem to have little different collections here and there. So it's always a bit difficult for me to trace down crafts of what we are looking for. There are also there are also crafts in private collections, but again, it's mostly the Mahmari or Jahut carvings, but there's a whole lot more Mahmari carvings out there, and they've made their way into the Mahmari Art Gallery, for example, that is in Cameron Highlands in Pahang. It's a paid entry private gallery. They also sell the crafts there as well. And there's in the UK, there's one by Peter Crow, who published a book with the help of COAC and us back in, I think, 2016. So that's a useful book to have as well. It was an interesting way of not just archiving, but it turns into a sort of catalog of available crafts for sale. And the Mamari woodcarvers are actively using it for to make some money. So it's not just the private collections, but there's also now collections coming up by communities themselves. They're collecting things that they can still find around them. They don't have access to the older items, but at least they have current and material culture. So you can see a lot of it. And for example, the Marmari ones in the Pusat Craft Orang Asli, that's in Sungai Bumbun itself. It's run by the JKK or the village committee, and they accept tourists and groups coming in, and that's one of the ways they earn from tourism. There's also the new one by Balai Informasi Budaya Temuan. I think that's based in Pulau Kempas. It's I think also run by JKK Pulau Kempas. Maybe Shak can clarify on that. There's not much information on who exactly runs it. And I've not unfortunately been there yet. The Seletar Cultural Center was set up quite some time ago. I'm not sure whether it's still standing, but it was an interesting little gallery in Johor, in Johor Bahru, and I think it was very useful for the court cases. I think Colin can clarify on that. And we have Balai Adat and Museum in Bukit Lanjan. I think it may not be operational per se, but I'm not sure. I think I've only been there once, a long time ago. But the photo that you see is the gallery in Pulau Keli, and it's very popular with people, and partly also now because of that sheer accessibility to KL. It's only about 1 hour plus away. They are really bringing in tourists to that area. It's not just the communities who are also bringing up their crafts and heritage, but also individuals within communities that are making great efforts to revive, in many cases, what they used to have. And one of the two that I really see quite active these days are Masna, a Mameri lady from Pulau Keri, and Ronnie Bahari, a Semai photographer from Perak. Both are very active, but Masna is an interesting study because I've been with her for the last 20 years, and we've seen her become very confident, growing in confidence, to not have to depend on either volunteers or outsiders. They can manage a lot of things themselves now. And in 2023, late 2023, she was given the title Adi Guru Craft, which is by Craft Tangan Malaysia, the body set up to regulate the craft industry in Malaysia. And it's a 5-year sort of contract, so that she can actually earn and teach and be recognized for the skills that she has in crafts, although she is also a traditional singer and dancer. And her cultural troupe is also quite famous and has traveled quite many places around the world. Ronnie is also a great photographer, and his works now are slowly appearing in some galleries. And he also attends and gives talks. So that's also a good thing, so that the communities can speak for themselves and they don't have to rely on outsiders to speak for them. Okay. Although there's a lot of things in museums and outside of museums, you also have to look, I think this is a bit appreciated, that the communities themselves, the Orang Asli themselves, have set up many groups many groups to help share their culture and music and crafts and everyday lifestyles and things like that to the outside world and among themselves as well. And I've posted some of the names that you can find. Some are public groups and some are private groups. Some have been set up by the Orang Asli themselves, some with some help from fellow researchers. So for example, Gambar Semelai Jaman is actually also helped a lot by Dr. Rosemary Giano. So there's lots of photos of some traditional things in there, in some from her archives as well. And it generates a lot of interest when communities see some of these old photos. And we know the importance of photos because I think some of you have experienced this before. Communities actually request back for some of those old photos. And in my case, for example, among the Semelai, some of them actually requested photos of the deceased because they wanted to use it as part of their grave markers for the deceased. So that's kind of useful to have. But I can ask you to explore these groups because sometimes the photos that they post are really, really interesting. And I'm not sure where some of them got their archival materials from. So because they don't always include the references, but they can be really, really interesting to look at. I'll show you an example. Here's one of the photos that we found from Sejarah Orang Asal Facebook page. There's no date given there, but the photograph was very familiar to me, and I actually checked back some of my photos, and I found a matching photo from 2012, and very little apparently has changed. The bamboo in the backpack is still used for keeping fish when you catch it, and the throw net is still being used, and some things apparently change very little over time. Okay. Here's a little bit more of what I actually do. My concern always is that there's a lot of archival material and research material on men's crafts, and there's very little actually done on women's crafts. It's a little bit gendered, and I do worry because there are stories being lost in the shuffle. For example, mats. So we are looking at photographs as archives, but you can also look at mats as part of the archival material. There's a sample mat there on the right-hand side, which is from a Semai weaver in a different part of Perak, not in Tapa, but we brought this mat along to show the weavers in Tapa, and they do recognize some of the designs, and they want to copy some of the other designs, and that's one of the ways we also ask about how motifs travel, how meanings may or may not travel with the motifs. Now with the advent of Facebook and all that, we have viewers looking through all sorts of photo references and coming up with their own designs or copied designs. So again, the meaning might not travel with the motif. But for example, the one the contemporary Semelai mat you'll see there, that's a new motif. When we asked the weaver what it was, the way she answered it made all of us kind of laugh, because when we asked, is it a flower? Then she said, no, it's a motorcycle sprocket. So yeah, so the motorcycle, which is now quite a common transport method instead of the little dugout canoes, now turns up also in mats. Looking at motifs also, we have, for those interested in ecology and stuff like that, some of the motifs are quite specific to the culture they come from. And this one is Marmari. And I actually followed them to harvest razor clams. And one of the motifs that they actually do use in the past was a razor clam motif. Unfortunately, my initial translation of the word pahat was actually, I thought meant chisels, but it actually meant razor clams. So that was problematic when you're not a linguist and you're working with ethnic groups that speak a different language from you. So yeah, and for now, for those who are also interested in the Marmari, do note that there is a big problem coming up in Pulau Keri, especially that 2 villages will likely be relocated due to a proposed mega port in the area. So that's not helping anyone. Okay, my computer. Okay. Also, lifestyle changes have also impacted how we look at their crafts and how their crafts progress. It's the small things which will disappear faster than we can document it. So for example, the centerpiece is a sumpit tali, or basically a sort of a bag woven from bark cloth, and it's used during the production of ubi for tapioca, grated tapioca, which has to be soaked, the toxins out, and then the water has to be pressed out, and traditionally it was made using these bark cloth bags, which are very rare now because everybody's using plastic, as you can see on the right hand side. So it's these small things which can actually has a small saleability among collectors, but by producing it again, like what we requested this lady to do, at least the younger generation could at least see it before it totally disappears. And come on, my computer's really old. And lastly, this is things you regret not doing fast enough. When people die, knowledge dies with them. So although I have the photographs for it, and in this case also a video of the music, by delaying certain types of things, I did not, or not asking the right questions, I did not manage to document much of this, and I can't seem to find a duplicate or another person who does it. For example, Budin, that he died in 2020. He's playing a Jahut musical instrument called the nabat, and I don't have any records, or I can't find any records on the nabat. And he's actually our basket maker. He makes really beautiful rattan baskets, and I never knew he could make musical instruments until we asked him. And when we asked him why, how come you didn't show us this thing earlier, then he looked at us and said, because you never asked. That's so you sort of that's one thing that now I really have to ask everyone, what exactly can you do when we are documenting the basic things that every artisan can do. And the second thing again, which is overlooked because it's also hardly documented much, or at least maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, is that the Orang Asli, especially the Jakuns, were blacksmiths. There are not very many nowadays. I really don't see many making parangs and kachip these days, but they were blacksmiths. And this is an example of a wooden piston bellow. I have not seen another one since he's passed. You know, most people don't know that the Orang Asli could do metal smithing. So it's such a pity that all this is gone before we can even get there. So that's my presentation for now. If you need more information, we do use our Facebook to disseminate information, so you can check our Facebook page. We also have Instagram, which is slightly more pretty pictures. So if you want the more factual stuff and descriptions, you can check Facebook instead, and you can email there if you need it. Okay, let me try and share. Okay, I just got a question, I think. So that's about it. I think I'll hand off to Colin.
Okay. Thank you for that. So just I'm sorry, I forgot to give the little bio about Rita before this. She actually founded and currently coordinates this Gerai OA in 2004. And it's a volunteer-run initiative which helps document, revive, repurpose, and market indigenous handicrafts of Malaysia, with 100% of the sale monies returning to the named artisan. So thank you so much, Rita. So next we have Dr. Nicholas, who will talk specifically about archival records as evidence used for indigenous land right claims, and also the importance of archiving cultural heritage. Dr. Nicholas founded the Center of Orang Asli Concerns, COAC, in 1989 and has been a coordinator since then. COAC is involved in advocacy work as well as capacity building programs that aim to get Orang Asli rights recognized and respected. The center serves as a resource repository as well for all kinds of materials related to the Orang Asli. And much of the information that's contained within it has and will be used by Orang Asli and Colin himself in the litigation for Orang Asli land right cases. Colin received his PhD with distinction in Orang Asli Orang Asli land right cases. Orang Asli politics, development, and identity from the Institute of Postgraduate Studies and Research from the University of Malaya in 2000. Colin, please.
Okay, thank you, Malcolm. Just let people know that I didn't give you any of my short bio to you, okay? You are the one who dug up all those things. But I was told there's going to be a conversation, and I first thought it was going to be a conversation about archiving Orang Asli stuff, especially documentation, materials that can be, held in your hands, like books, recordings, and all kinds of things. But then 2 days ago, I looked at the title, and its focus was on cultural heritage. So let me just give you a couple of examples how cultural heritage is quite important, in fact, very important for establishing Orang Asli rights, and how the cultural heritage is actually being formed or reformed today. That if young Orang Asli want to go back and find out what it was like in the past, they will find it very hard if they did not have the original or the authentic items, what they call it, recorded before. So let me share some. Let me just give some. Am I sharing? Yeah. Excuse me. So in the Sargon Tasi case, we had to prove a number of things. First of all, that the Orang Asli were a distinct community. They were different from the other communities. They had their own culture, their own language, and so on. Basically, they were an exclusive society, and what do you call it? A society dependent on Adat, is it? So we used a lot of cultural items. One was this sword used by Dabak, the Pengulu Balai there. He said he used to serapa, cast spells at the rain clouds whenever the weather was turning bad. We used that. But just a simple thing like this, the blowpipe was also used as evidence in court. Basically it says that basically to prove that Orang Asli had their own culture, they'd hold hunting tools and even Temuans, for example, like the Dabak was here. The blowpipe, the Temuans are different from the Jahais and the other communities and so on. But we use this picture. You can see the number that P16A is the plaintiff's evidence number 16A to show that the items in the what goes into the blowpipe is among the blowpipe itself. But more importantly, it was labeled. So all the names were given in Temuan, and this itself was evidence that not only did their material culture was different from the others, and it was unique to their own ethnic group, but the language used and the terms used for these particular items was different from the national language, and therefore the Temuan society is different from the mainstream society or any other Orang Asli society, which is an important ingredient for proving your rights to native title under common law. Okay. In another case, the Seletar case, this was the case in Danga Bay, Sungai Temon, and Bakabatu, where Orang Asli, the sea people, Orang Seletar, lands were taken by the government and given to others. So they were claiming back their land and had to establish native customary rights over it. So when the court went for a site visit, the one person in the middle here is the judge, the government and company lawyers. These are our lawyers, and the Orang Asli here. So when he went to the court, he visited all the places that he could visit, but he didn't go on the boat. On the boat ride, you went by land because I think he was afraid of water. I don't know, but he didn't see everything. But because the Orang Asli there had a cultural center established about 2 years earlier, 2 years before that, and they made a visit to the center, and in that center, all the artifacts which they used in the past, as well the photos of Ivan Paulinin showing lives of the Orang Asli during the 1970s in particular, were all in that structure, And within half an hour, the judge was able to get a glimpse, a view of all the Orang Asli way of life in the past, the importance of their ecosystem, the tools they use, and so on. He didn't have to read tons and tons of affidavits. So this was a very crucial aspect in getting the knowledge, awareness, and an impression on people who needed to be impressed. In this case, the courts. So the point to mention here is that cultural heritage is not only crafts, and so on, things like that. It's how it's be used, and it's important to to get it real. real in the sense of, I'll show you what I mean by that later, no? Oh, let me show you something else. When I was in doing my field work, there were 16 different varieties of rice being planted in Batao, no, at that time, in one season. All this is from one field, including four varieties which were Bapunan, they call it, pulut rice. Today you only get 3 or 4, no. So even the so-called cultural heritage has an impact on the biodiversity, the loss of biodiversity in our country. So collection of items is also very important, and I won't go through all that. Another thing that's important is that we tend to look at the normal things of what they call it, Orang Asli cultural heritage, but we don't look at things which are, how we say, not so obvious, but equally important to show how much of a cultural heritage they have. So for example, I'm going to play. Am I playing this? Okay. Hang on, I'll just playing the video, but it has to go through the video program. Start again. Hang on. Sorry. Hang on. Let's play this. Are you seeing the bamboo scenery? It's the wrong one showing it.
Yeah, we saw the slideshow with the music, with the down the river.
Okay, so I'll share it again. No, the two were playing is just now. This is an example of a technology which is not normally archived or kept in the museum. Orang Asli did bamboo slats for their housing, for the event they wanted, no?
Dia tak boleh jauh sangat. Dia kena kat sini je.
The other is teaching the young guy how to. Yeah, so that's an example of a material culture which is still being practiced, but it's not being recorded as cultural heritage, you know. And there are many examples like this, no. Just now, Rita mentioned about Ninek Te in Simpai and his ironsmith work and his bamboo, whatever you call it, the bellows, no. I actually have videos of him working on the metal tools there, see? And Rita was there at the same time also. And we have a lot of recordings like this in our center, but unfortunately we do not have the personnel or time or resources to put it into nice videos, which I find so much on the internet these days, see? So it'd be quite good, no? But what is also important is that we have to, how we say, ensure authenticity, you know. And what's happening today is a lot of the real stuff is being modified It's being adapted, it's been modernized, which is nothing wrong in that. But if you lose the original intent and culture or the spirit of the item, then something is very, very wrong. I'll show you this set of videos. It's a bit long, but I'll finish with that. No, they're not playing. Okay, this was recorded by Rita and me some time ago, no? When the woman which I mentioned who got the award last year, she was pretty young woman then, and there's a family there, see? And everything was still very raw in the sense that it was original. Well, not original, but for us, it was original. This is the first time for us seeing it, no? So this is the Mamri dance. Rita will know the name, I forget the name. But it's very popular. Always during the Hari Moyang festival. It's also performed a lot in what do you call it? This and so on. But that's what I'm trying to say. You see, many of the items which are on record on video today, dancers or songs or performances, they actually perform on stage, not in the traditional context, not in the as close as possible to the natural environment. You see, many of the recordings on YouTube, on the internet, are actually with a microphone in front of you, or some stage event. And so this is how the Mamuri dance, at least one of them, is usually portrayed or sung in the community. But what happened was, I forget the year, but some award was given to some guy, some experts, musicians from outside came in, and they got this Aswara group to design and reinvent the So that was a version played on Chitrawana in the Selangor Padang. Claire Chan was the one who alerted me to it. And that was the first time that particular music, that particular steps was introduced to the public, you see. And later on, it became the in thing. Like this event in Taman Budaya Pahang. Next one is from a school in KL, no, Wangsa Melati. Similar sound. And the next one is from the just a bit now. This is the modern tune with the second video I showed just now. And this was at the Selangor International Arts Festival, International Indigenous Arts Festival. Then it's being internalized by students from school. It's a school in Terengganu. This is the school in Terengganu. And UITM. So I don't know whether to laugh or cry, you know. That's the reality we are facing today, you see. What is the cultural heritage? What is it we want to archive or create or no? There's a big difference between improvising, make it real, but this is making a mockery of the cultural heritage, you see. But there are people, like, Digital Dome, this guy, he has a YouTube channel called Digital Dome. He has a lot of YouTube posts, no, on his channel about the batik in Kolako, and all the traditional things which they're doing, like the making of the gingong, the juice harp, and so on, are very well documented. He has a very bad narration, but his videos and his photography is really fantastic, and the people are talking naturally. Those are the kinds of go and YouTube it, go and Google it, no? YouTube Digital Dome, DOME, one word, and you'll find a lot. So there is a danger in not recognizing what is cultural heritage and what is really cultural, no, and what should be heritage. And that's all I want to say tonight because my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Colin. This was fascinating questions that hopefully the discussion later can discuss more about what counts as authentic or real cultural heritage. So next up we have Shaq Koyo, who will talk about his point of view as an Orang Asli and as an artist and activist. Shaq is a contemporary artist from the indigenous Temuan tribe of Selangor. The Temuan have a population of roughly 29,000 in Peninsular Malaysia. In his early life, land developers encroached on the jungle around Shaq's village, and the experience is reflected in many of his works. That trauma from his childhood has fueled his passion and led him to fight for many of his people's land rights. He loves to explore many art mediums from contemporary painting to installation art. So, Shaq, please.
All right, thank you, Malcolm. Very hard to watch for me to watch the Colin presentation. It was so I kind of I would say insulting and kind of really hard to consume the kind of video. Right, how to show my okay, how to share my, sorry, I got problem sharing my
Maybe you click
presentation.
share screen at the bottom, the green color button.
Oh yeah, I should
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that. Right, yeah. I'm gonna show a little bit about culture heritage. How to make it. Okay. Okay. Yes, I'd like to. Here, I'm so fascinated about how museum, especially in national institutions, that presented many of our item or art work or any of our image or any from the indigenous people. So I managed to get a grant to further my study in indigenous art and national narrative in comparative study in indigenous people arts and representation within national institutions. So I went to opposite to learn about how the other institutions work. But here I like to share a little bit about how indigenous culture and community local indigenous culture that really have a quite like a many of our culture really rely on the health of the ecosystem and also environment. So our traditional ecological knowledge quite linked together with the environment basically. So it's so our knowledge about the importance of our culture has been passed down from generation to generation, and now with many of the new development projects being proposed for many government and agency, many of our culture start diminishing. So this is one of the example like cultural heritage that we still practicing in Malaysia, and you can see this Sweden agriculture. I think many people know about this. So it's also we have a quite still practicing our spiritual and cultural connection. Even to this day, many of our Asli still, if only the certain Asli that live nearby the forest, they can still practicing. But unfortunately, many of our Asli, especially in Selangor, we have traveled to sustain our culture and practice our culture because we lost to the natural environment, for example, the forests, and many of our land been turned into a development project and so on, so on. So here, this example how the land is very important to us in order for us to practice our culture. Like Colin and even Rita mentioned earlier that like Mamri now they're dealing with the many two villages in the Mamri community in Polokeri area will end up will move away from the area. So it means their place for their to worship will be disappear. It's like a mosque or church for any of any religion, will be moved away just to make way of development project, to make way of hot development expansion. So so we always have deep connection to the forest. We manage the forest really well, and we shown that many of our forests been safe because of our indigenous people, because of Asli, because we live there. We know how important it is. So in my work now, I try to link together how we can support indigenous people by recognize our impact in terms of climate resilience, in terms of protecting the forest as one perfect example how the indigenous people as a for and even first liner in protecting the forest and to combat the climate change. So I think Rita earlier mentioned earlier, but the culture center in my village now, we with the help of course COSC and Global Environment Center, we managed to set up this culture center in my village. That this culture center will be a place for now is a place for many of young and youth of indigenous people in my community will relearn, and also a place for us to explore our idea and share about our idea and our culture and heritage to many people. And we just recently established this last year in December. So and actually it's right, exactly what I've been dreaming of since I received the grant from the Merdeka Award to further my study on the how the institution can be placed for us to get our culture being preserved or conserved, and also practice our culture. And I think this is one perfect example. I think I can shown to everybody how archiving and how presenting the indigenous culture is important to this day, even though we dealing with digital media now, and but the real tangible culture, real ongoing practice by the indigenous people is also very important, and the oral story can be told in the songs they sing, in the movement they do, and the and all that will not just attracting the tourists, but actually give the young generation a chance to explore, and also use the smartphone to take the video of this performance, cultural performance. That I think is quite one other thing we can attract the young generation, because nowadays I realize, since I live in the village now, I notice many young generation glued to the phone, not because not because they're just playing video game, but they just doesn't even look about their cultural heritage anymore. But by 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 putting a show of any event that we have, the youth will call, they love to make a video so they can put in their TikTok or Facebook. By the way, we do have a content creator among the Orang Asli, where they make video of their culture and they put it in the YouTube, TikTok, even Facebook. And I encourage them to show what they do in their village, for example, and what they do to catch, especially to get the show them how the Orang Asli culture. I tell them people were interested to see how the Orang Asli live in the forest, how we harvest the some product from the jungle, and that's a very interesting thing people would like to see. So we set up a Facebook group called Orang Asli YouTuber, and also we have a private WhatsApp group that commenting everybody content before they publish it, or they publish content that related to our indigenous culture and heritage. So I often say, oh, maybe you should put subtitle in that, explain another. I think this kind of thing, I can still get the youth interested in their culture, so I can exploit the use of the digital content by get them interested of documenting this culture. I think this is one thing I can do. And at the moment, we got a number of visitors already in the culture center in my village. We do have a quite with the help of Colin, and I think we got inspired by the culture center in Kampung Sungai Temon and Johor, by the Semalai community, Selata community there. So all my many of my villages really want to do like a competition between every culture center now. So I hope, and we hope that our culture center will inspire other community will build their culture center. So in order for us to to relive and practice our culture, and also document our culture and display in the center that we manage. And this is managed by us, me and my friends and my relative in village. So we organize the activity. We get a number of packages people like to join, and we do have quite numbers of people from different background come already join the packages we shown. But we don't really attend to the what's it called, touristy kind of type of performance. Fortunately, because I make sure they're not gonna be exploited, because I know the exploitation works. So I make sure. So I also as the Malcolm introduced earlier, I also love to use my art as a tool for the social change, and I use my art to promote our indigenous right, especially in Peninsula area. So, and this painting is about the situation in Pulau Keri, and where they did the Puja Pantai, or what's it called, the sea worship, I think. I'm not sure how to translate. Anyway, so this is my text on what could happen and what is really happen in Pulau Keri, and how this area been turned into so-called development area for the port expansion. So this is what could happen. So as an artist, I try to warn people by using my art to explore, to express my frustration about the overdevelopment project in Malaysia. This is example of my work. All right, I think I better stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing, Shak. That was a great presentation. So at this point in time, I'm going to open the floor up for discussion. So if any of you have had burning questions that you wanted to ask our panelists, now's the time. You can unmute and ask, or you can post in the chat, and then we'll take a look and try to respond. But if no one's going to unmute, then I guess I'll just ask first. Shaq, Shaq, some of the art that you shared, it's quite provocative. Have you ever gotten in trouble for 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 making stuff like that? Like with the red and the fist and everything, and Temir Lawan, hashtag Temir Lawan. It's like yeah. Have you ever gotten in trouble?
No, not really. I think because art soften it. I think the way art been displayed in the galleries, it's like become exclusive, but actually is talking about social change in the softened way and kind of artistic way. So I can get away for it because artist license. I explain way how I express myself. To me, art is a part of expression, and it's freedom of expression should is part of our composition. So it's no other people try to make a big deal of it, but you know means by not show my painting. There's some certain gallery that's
Oh.
not allow me to show my painting because
Oh, okay.
talk about the inequality in Malaysia. So yes, that's only thing I think I have trouble with, but the rest of it I managed to wiggle myself, use my way to
Yeah,
explain
yeah.
the reason why I painted because the truth, and I think as artist I need to respond to the truth.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. Yeah.
I guess just a general question. How are the communities? And anyone can just anyone in the panel, anyone in the audience. How are the communities archiving their culture, their documents? Aside from TikTok videos, YouTube's. Yeah, what are they doing, and how are they doing? How are they archiving?
General public or any
Anything. I'm just curious. As an archivist, when I get to do that, don't do this often. But just curious, how are So here I'm sitting in a climate controlled facility. And it's always a constant temperature, really good humidity. But I'm wondering, and at the community level, what are people doing, or are they even thinking about archiving?
Yeah, that's a very good question because I have similar question when I went to the New Zealand and Australia because the material they're archiving is quite similar to ours. For example, the timber based material or natural based material like weaving and so on. And what they did is one is very spiritual, one is very colonial. Yeah, well, they colonized. Wait, Australia was, and I went to when I went to life. I kind of I that's why my studies try to compare between two countries how they archive it. But in terms of honestly, many of item, for example, the one of sacred like blowpipe, they've been passed down from many generations. What we did is we smoked for example, the blowpipe to make sure the water kind insect that eating it. I don't know in English, but I know in Malay. But they smoke them to make sure they don't break, they don't be eaten by this insect. So in order for us to pass the item to the next generation, we make sure they last long by smoke them under the kitchen. And but you know how to smoke work. They make that item become darker each year. But that's why I'm asked the community now to, if you have traveled, to preserve the, put in the center, because many community still the house is not proper seal, and the rain will drop to that material, then will break. And I ask them, if you have traveled, to keep that material put in the center. Now I think this is the reason that we build this center, so for you to put that stuff, then for proper documentation, and your next generation will enjoy that item, so you can tell the story behind that too. So I was pleased to see that the many community now putting that item in the center.
If I may add to that, Malcolm, in terms of archiving stuff in the village, if you talk about material culture, there's one very good collection by Achong Loji, who used to be the DJ at Radio Ashik FM, and also the owner, the Central Market shop, no, Asli Craft. His house is more equipped, more with stuff that any museum put together can have, no. But I think there must be a way by which his collection is to be put in a very proper way of presentation and storage. The other non-material culture documentation, like old history books and so on, is also done by Orang Asli, especially when you have cases coming on. And Romani is here, Romani from Bukit Rock. When the court case was on for his village, he was very crucial in getting information and what do you call it, oral history, as well as documents from the elders, old photographs and so on. That helped his community win the case. So there are people who are doing all these things, but they are not organized, they are not systematic, in the sense that the way of archiving, the storage and all these things are not, even for us, for that matter, we are even worse off in terms of using and storing our stuff. So that's something to be looked at.
So Colin and Jack and everyone on the panel, so you think there's a need for more training, or just training for preservation, archiving? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We have some
You can have some
questions
questions too. Yeah. Why don't you?
This is to Dr. Aya Kawai and Dr. Toshihiro. Robest, this is it is incredible that Japanese like you know more about the lives of the Orang Asli here than most Malaysians itself. What is it that made you interested in them in the first place? So maybe Dr. Kawai or Dr. Toshihiro can respond.
Nobuta-san.
はい、はい。
はい。
Okay.
どっち先にしますか？
My what?
うちら二人に質問が来たんですけど、どうして調査をしようと思った、興味を持ったか。力答えます。
Yeah, to try to answer. Firstly, I am interested in and to go field work among the Orang Asli is because I think they are at that time they have no religion, no Christian, no Muslim, no Buddhist. So it's academic terms, animism. I'm interested in what is animism, because the Japanese also like animist, the name only Buddhist, but it's how they live in the no religion. That is very interesting for me. But now I'm interested in them is very near the nature. It's a very important things for us. It's very, for example, I am very modern in the living in a city, in the modernized Japanese world. From that point, I think it's Malaysia also very near the nature, forest and green or something. But Orang Asli people is very near the nature, I think. That is interesting for me. And now I have many friends of Orang Asli, and how they think about the nature, or they think about the modernized world, also Facebook or SNS also. But yeah, that's there is is my interest past. Okay.
And maybe Dr. Kawai, you want to respond as well?
Oh, sure. I grew up in a environment with is very rich in nature, and I had experience with the like anti-development movements in my home island, and I wanted to know about the relationships between the humans and people and nature environment, and decided to study in Malaysia, doing research in Malaysia. And my supervisors took me to many Orang Asli compounds in Kelantan, Terengganu, and when I visited Kayako, I really liked there and decided to do field work there. Then started my first field work there, and during my field work, 2 years field work, lived with Pate and became more interested in them. That's it.
Okay. So there's a couple more questions in the chat, but I noticed somebody put their hand up. I think
yeah,
Wallace.
Ian Wallace has his hand up. So.
Yeah, well, why don't you go ahead and ask your question first?
Thank you. I really enjoyed all of the talks today. They were really fascinating. And maybe my question is a little off topic, but it seems very relevant to me. There was a lot of discussion today about preserving traditions that are potentially going to be lost. I wonder I wonder what people think about how people on this call who are interested in these sorts of things can also promote the preservation of these things, not just kind of in museums, but also the knowledge and practices of these, and also support people like Shuck and other people who are kind of extending and creating new Orang Asli traditions. So I'm trying to think about how we can kind of build upon the interest here to actually support people who are continuing traditions and also elaborating traditions and are now the creators of traditions like Shuck.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point that Ian, you brought up, especially in the face of the very practical concerns that go around that surround archival work, right? So if I'm not wrong, Colin briefly mentioned that there is an urgent need and a lack of manpower, surrounding things like cassettes or old papers that haven't been digitalized or properly preserved because there just isn't enough hands for the work, right? And I'd like to also point out that it may not seem very urgent to us at this time, but to some degree, there is a race against the clock, right? Because a lot of the ethnographic work, or let's say the oral history interviews, which are vital to proving things like cultural heritage, they're recorded on mediums that are quickly going obsolete. So things like cassettes, or I mean, okay, it sounds really, really mean for me to say it like this, but eventually it will go out of use very, very quickly. And if we're not decisive about it, right? Once these mediums go out of use, it becomes harder for us to access them and consequently digitalize and preserve and so on. So as I think you raised an excellent point about this, Ian. Maybe Colin, maybe you could share something about if there are any programs that are in place for getting hands to help with the work?
Well, first of all, I have to make a clarification. We're not talking about preservation of culture, no, as in culture aesthetic. We're not talking about preserving and making sure that orang asli still use the old tools or the old material culture. See, we're talking about understanding and recognizing that orang asli have this material culture, and there's a lot of it that can be learned from it. So in terms of spirituality also, it's not talking about you have to follow the old way, you know. The important thing is the core values, the core foundations that make them useful, that make them important as an identity marker for the orang asli. I'll give you an example. In the past, over 100 years ago, some orang asli groups, especially those in the north, used the bow and arrow. Okay, today none of them do. Now there's some groups in Jahais, for example, in Bandung, are trying to recover that, but they have nothing to go back onto except some photographs, and they come up with very funny models based on the amazing type of bow and arrows. You see, okay, so it's not as if that we are. Oh, did you know that the sepak api, the Semalai fire starter, that you smack, the fire starter, that was inspiration for the diesel engine by Daimler. So there are things among which the orang asli have done. I mean, biodiversity is an indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge regarding the biodiversity is also very big. But these things are not given the necessary credence or weight that the orang asli deserve, and therefore being seen in a better light than just primitives, with all these curiosities, So that's why we have to change that thinking. Cultural heritage is not just to preserve orang asli lifestyles, but to show that orang asli have something that that defeats what we normally think of them as, backward people, non-modern peoples, and so on. So that's what I think. So to answer your question, I'll leave it to Rita and Sharp directly.
Okay, yeah, maybe you've been arrowed, Rita and Sharp, as it were. So maybe you could talk a bit about if there are any like volunteer programs or if recruitment drives or internship stuff that helps add hands to the archival work.
Well, for us, we have interns, but nobody's interested in this kind of work because it's boring work, sitting down and digitizing tapes and films and or scanning documents and so on. So they will, if it's young students, they will do it, but only for a week. Then they will either give up or want to do something else. So it's really, unless like Robin has got these archival students who are actually studying how to manage archives or do archival work. That's a different thing, you see. I remember going to Ivan Paulin's house in Singapore once, and his whole room full of tapes and documents and ceramics and everything. And as far as orang asli concerned, he's got one of the best old archives, of stuff, what ethnographic stuff, And he had a PhD or master student sitting in his aircon room, day in, day out, just digitizing everything, So all those stuff have been digitized, which is excellent, but unfortunately, we still have not. It's not easily accessible at the moment. But that's what we need, Somebody who's really, really crazy about archiving stuff and old stuff, and doing the work.
So, Rita, maybe you can talk a bit about how Gerai OA tackles this issue when it comes to its operations. You're muted. Unmute your you gotta unmute yourself,
Still muted,
Rita.
Rita.
We don't really tackle it right now because it's just sitting in piles in the office, but in the storeroom. But yeah, because we have a lot of other things to do. So the easiest way for me to put stuff out is actually just posting it on the Facebook, and at least it's up there and it doesn't go completely missing. While it's still fresh, we put it up on the Facebook where it's post. At least that keeps interest up among the viewers and sometimes even among the orang asli themselves. So yeah, I'm not sure how Shark does it. Shark, you want to answer?
What's the question again?
The question was,
Do you want to have any difficult question for me?
no, the question was if you faced any difficulties with stuff like digitalizing or recording things like Orang Asli cultural heritage, and because there's so much, if you ever struggled with digitalizing or preserving, was there ever an issue for you?
Yes, I think that's one of the issue. I think I noticed one of my friends, he actually want to document the culture of childhood, and he wanted to get the all footage from, I don't know how he get it, but he told me the file is corrupted and some from it's not really compatible with the new version. So when I put together, he found that it's quite difficult, and sometimes I have no idea how to solve that. And one of the thing, this is one of the thing I find it quite difficult for many of our young creators, especially indigenous creators. They really want to uh, do interesting thing for their video so they can upload to YouTube, especially showing their heritage. And yes, it's quite it's hard to digitize many of the old footage that they record from the old webcam or any all like all video. Even I noticed one of the video that been uploaded many years ago. Now, when we try to download back, is the quality, even the quality itself can be very deteriorated for I don't know, and how we gonna get that the quality back to where it was to, is make it even harder. I think other is this modern digital world now become harder for many of our culture to be sync together with the current wave.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot about getting more hands to do the work, but I think Shaq, you brought up a fantastic point about the training that's also necessary to tackle things like different video formats, right? If you need to, download and use an old video or something like that. Yeah.
Yes,
and
I think
yeah,
like Rod just mentioned, do we need the train in terms of archiving work? Yes, we do
I
need.
think we do.
I'm sure
I
a
think
lot
the
of
training, no, Sharp. I think the training is not difficult and not much training. It's more the resources, the equipment, from you have to have the old machines to convert to digitize, and storing it in a safe manner, safe place, and having duplicates and so on, all those things. Training it's not complicated. I think Rodney will support me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Training, I think, is pretty straightforward, but to Colin's point, so what do you do afterwards, after you've digitized or so? I think those are things we need to tackle. Those are immediate needs. So
And on this point, since we've been talking so much about digitalization and in this digital age, I'm going to segue butter smooth to Darren Clark's question that he posted. He asked, do you think that the youth of the kampongs being exposed to globalization, technology, and most importantly, social media is even more damaging to cultural preservation than even land grabbing or climate change? And I feel like I must preface his question by referring us back to Colin's clarification about the definition of culture that we're working with, right? So not a static, homogeneous thing, but something that evolves and is constantly reshaped and engaged in bilateral influential processes with the actors who are within its sphere. Yeah. So maybe any of my panelists, do you want to give your opinion on this, on Darren Clark's question?
I want to share my experience in Calaco. Using digital tools is like sharing some of your ideas to the world, but on the other hand, you receive some other informations, right? And it is not very common to the party people in at Kuala to, the for the child to hitting or other friends doing like kicking people. It's not common to, I think, other orang asli also, I guess. But after watching kids watching the kung fu movies, like fighting movies, then they played like punching each other, kicking each other, and their parents really didn't like it. So the people, the adults stopped buying such DVDs and showing those DVDs. This is the I just wanted to share this story. So
Yes.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Rita.
Yeah. So yes, they look out into the world. The orang asli, especially young people, they look out into the world using social media and stuff like that. It's a two-way street. It's fun when they see so many new things out there. They have a look, see, but at a certain point, then they start turning back and looking inwards, because then they realize what they have, which is special. And there's a lot of revivals coming up among the not exactly well-used and not so young people, when they start reminiscing about what they have lost, and how they are going to try and reclaim some of that. So it's a two-way street. Yes, it's not always a good thing, but no, it's not always a bad thing. I don't know if that makes sense.
And Colin, you wanted to add something?
Actually, if you look at the way the orang asli are using social media now, YouTube, WhatsApp, and so on, it's really very uplifting, because there's a tremendous amount of pride in their identity now. If anybody talks bad about the orang asli, says any comments about orang asli that's negative, like Sakais and so on, no, the whole community will attack you to the extent that the other party, big time parties, not like movie stars and so on, have to apologize publicly, or the mother of the artist have to apologize, no? And this has happened before. And the good thing about the social media is that they are using this to exchange information among themselves and sharing the knowledge and culture as well. No? So this, I think this is a very important. The social media has been changing a lot of things in the world, and the orang asli are not excluded. No. But the negative effects is another thing altogether. That comes with consumerism, that comes with the media abuse and so on. That's totally different. See? But orang asli are using social media in a very positive way also.
Yeah, I totally agree with Colin. And yes, and there's a number of many of way we can know, make sure the culture not misappropriated. In the example of fashion designer recently, last year was misappropriated to represent, not to represent, but actually to use the indigenous culture for Maori people by turning into a fashion show that's presented a very appropriate way, and it's quite so, and any community in that village find it very insulted, and they offer this make a police report. But from that case, even this model not model, sorry, this fashion designer never even back down, and even doesn't even apologize, even try to try to make a point that his way of presenting in his culture will make them popular. That's even worse for us to think, and that's one of the things I think kind of bring a bad reputation to many of our Asli culture by exploiting in that way. So and another thing that case has brought out so many questions about how in his culture been misappropriated, and even try to profiting on other people culture, and not even acknowledging the authenticity of that culture, and that's make it even worse for many young generation in this culture that make them afraid to show their culture, because when this happen again, and in a positive way, many of Asli come together in one voice to attack back to this uh, to this fashion designer. We did collectively say this is wrong, and we not accepted it. Even the Tobatin from the village itself make a police report, but because there's another individual in the village that really give a green light to do this project, and think that's a real concern that we face. Many of indigenous culture been exploited in such way. And one and another issue is like Colin said, the social media is a great tool for many honestly express their frustration. For example, the land right issue, the dam issue, even the way people try to scapegoat honestly as many things. So soon this post being posted by many individuals that insulting honestly. Many of my friends try to tell them what the truth behind it, and try to reclaim back, and try to make sure we're not gonna be a scapegoat. We're not gonna be used as a to make them popular. So that's one of the thing I think is good about social media, and also globalization, and also make people aware that how we also have a voice, and make people, many of indigenous people, and it's not our culture in express ourselves freely and openly, but we did with social media, with the internet, we managed to do that with the text, with the video, or with the artwork, or express it freely in the social media. I think that's one of the good things that we can use with the internet.
Yeah, I agree. Fantastic points. Thank you. I hope that sufficiently answered your question, Darren. We also have a question from Ten Jo Lim, specifically directed at Colin. Colin, you talked about the Orang Selita Cultural Heritage Center in Johor as being vital to winning the court case, but based on news reports, it seems like people are waiting to be relocated to Sungai Tram. I'm curious if you could speak about the politics of relocation and the loss of place, but also what these local archival centers can or cannot do.
Okay, so the case is called the Adi Salim case, in Danga Bay. So what happened was the case was Orang Asli land rights, recognition of Orang Asli customary rights to the land and the coastal waters. In that sense, the court recognized that the Orang Asli had native title rights under common law. Okay, so with all the proof they gave, plus all the evidence, including the artifacts and so on, the judge ruled that the Orang Asli held native title rights under common law, but the people who bought the land or were given the land, the companies and all these other all these developers and so on, they also had rights because they bought the land legally, or they acquired the land legally under the National Land Code. So it was a case of two coexisting rights: the Orang Asli having rights to the customary lands under common law, and the developers and other private individuals having the land under the National Land Code, having bought or given or been alienated the land by the state government. So what the judge ruled was, what happened here is that because of the coexisting rights, the party at fault is the state government of Johor. The state government of Johor did not recognize the native title rights of the Orang Asli, and therefore did not take action to secure that land by gazetting it as an Orang Asli reserve or whatever, Instead, he gave the land or sold the land or alienated the land to all these other parties. So the party at fault is the state government. So the state government must look upon it as if it acquired the land from the Orang Asli and sold the land or gave the land to the other party. So as a result of that, the state government must pay the Orang Asli compensation for the loss of land under the Land Acquisition Act, But the Orang Asli did not want cash compensation; they wanted land. And since there was no more land available, and development was already at a very high level, The straits were also quite destroyed. There was a suitable piece of land just 2 kilometers away from the existing village, the village 10. But during the court case, the state government gave the land or sold the land to the company also. So it's quite ridiculous. So in the end, and both parties were appealing, you see, the state government was appealing. I mean, the parties were all appealing, and the Orang Asli were also appealing. They wanted the land, not the cash, you see. So as a result of the consent agreement, the Orang Asli in Danga Bay, not Bakar Batu is still exists there as a village. See? The other village, Sungai Temon, has agreed to move to another village, another place, Ulu Tiram, next to the Orang Asli village there, with a similar kind of environment, but with all the necessary development being ready before they move. No? So it was a consent agreement, the decision for the Orang Asli to move. Does that answer the question, Tianjo?
Yes, he says yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so maybe I can follow up with one of my own. We still have time, yes?
We have a little time, yes.
Okay. So I'm actually drawing here from Dr. Arya Kawai's presentation about post-colonial critique, right? And I want to bring that into conversation with Colin's idea of how do you decide something is authentic or real, right? When we're talking about preserving cultural heritage, right? And also in relation to what Rita Rahim shared about mats. And one thing I found very interesting from Rita's presentation was the commodification of certain cultural items like mat weaving, right? And I presume this commodification is somewhat voluntary on the part of the Orang Asli who are involved in making it for the sake of earning money. And this is parallel, right? This commodification of cultural products is parallel in other upland minorities, like in the Laos, the Hmong, they have memory weaving mats where they basically do the same thing, but they also suffer from a similar problem of commodification for tourism and tourist consumption. So, Colin, I suppose maybe you could speak to this. How would you grapple with ideas of self-commodification if you're going to assert that we have to decide on what is authentic or real in terms of cultural heritage in talking about archiving?
I think I used the wrong word, authentic. There's no such thing as authentic, you see. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's not what I meant was, you see, like Rita's mats, you see, when the weaver modifies it and puts in new motifs and so on, that's nothing. That's culture, because you take into account your environment, your experience. The original designs were based on that motifs, see, the plants, the leaves, the whatever, the flowers, that's how they went to the design. So it's still the art of creating culture is still based on tradition. So the authentic is a very bad word to use. So what happens now is when you want to commercialize, you put a rocket in the crafts, or or put the logo of the Pakatan Rakyat or some party, that's different. That's normal culture, is using, and that's what they do, because when they want to make beads and all this kind of weavings to give as souvenirs, that's what they do. And that's fine, because you're doing it for a purpose. But if you're doing it for commercialization, for the sake of commercialization, then I think people have to think more about it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the culture is, culture is not static, as everybody knows, but culture is also, has a purpose for the community.
I'll just
Rita,
add one more thing.
go
Since
ahead.
you're talking about mats, I don't know where you classify this one, whether it's under commercialism or whether it's under practical reasons. There's a design among the Semelai, which are concentric diamonds, and they are currently known as tapak itik, or duck's feet. But original name, I'm not sure if Rosemary can verify this, but the apparent original name for that was called kurung babi, or it's basically a pig's pen. It's like a diamond where you secure the pigs for market. So when you have more Malays buying into the mats, the last thing you need to do is tell the Malay buyer
Yeah.
that is a fixed band motif. So whether it's for commercial reasons or otherwise, the name got changed. The motifs is the same. The name just got modified a little bit for the market purposes.
Interesting, because I not recently, about last year, I bought this mat from Porcelanai, and they told me I asked what kind of motif it is, and the weaver is my friend's mom. She told me this is the tapak what's it called, tapak gajah. It's a elephant footprint. So I said, why is tapak gajah? So, well, we do have the elephant come by here. I said, also, is there any case of and they told me about the recent incident about a few years back. There's one village not far from Poslana area. The community been one kid die or two. I forgot. Been stumped by the elephant, and I was like, wow. And she weave the mat based on that story. Yeah, so it's about the elephant footprint. I was like, okay, I have to have this. So I get it with me, the mat, and I think that story, that really touched me about how the community uh, uh, inspired by incident and make it into mat that can, the story still there in the weaving and the pattern. So I was pleased to hear that. Not pleased, I mean, the story about incident was horrific, but she told the story on the mat that she wove. So I was so, I was so, I know, surprised how she can express that on the mat. It's something I can relate on because I'm an artist myself. So I was, I still have mat with me. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I thought Aglin might want to ask something because I'm unmuted, but I guess not. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one recurring theme that I noticed throughout most of the presentations that we've seen tonight was how lifeways and knowledge, like traditional, what was it, traditional ecological knowledge that Shaq brought up, and also the points that Colin, you brought up with your videos of how they were working with bamboo, right? These have become sort of characteristic or integral to defining what is cultural heritage for the sake of preservation, which sort of, I'm posing this as a wider question since we are on the topic of archiving cultural heritage. How do we go about archiving these knowledges and lifeways? How does that meld with textual tradition, right? So, for example, we see ethnography. Ethnography was one way of doing that through text, right? But it comes with its whole list of disciplinary conventions that may not always, oh yeah, no worries. They may not always be useful in the specific context of Orang Asli that you're trying to record. And I just wanted to open the question if after seeing Colin use videos, and I saw some mention of music recordings, if there were any alternative options to recording knowledge and lifeways. And I'm not sure if Dr. Lai Tak Po is here with us tonight, but her research focused on that contextualized knowledge and the transmission of knowledge and lifeways. If she is here, I would invite her to say something about that. But the wider question is about alternative forms of archival, and I'm curious to hear from our archival specialists regarding this.
Just add, it's not exactly archiving, but I come to the point nowadays that we are really pushing to have the skills, because you can preserve or conserve the physical form, but the skills in producing crafts, music, and other things are slowly disappearing. So we are actually pushing for training in community trainings among themselves and between communities to preserve certain skills or to add onto existing skill bases. So training is actually kind of important, and it has to be done from one thing from the inside out. That means externally, I can provide some training or trainers from other communities, but if the community itself does not want it, then there's nothing much we can do. But we have found that a lot of communities are requesting for training, and that's why nowadays we are kept busy by running little workshops here and there. So yeah, it's one way to keep the tradition alive. And by keeping that traditional alive, you keep also the forest alive. Our community artisans have actually fought back against loggings and loggers. Some to do some at least they're saving bits and pieces of and pockets of forested areas because they need forests for their crafts. So they always argue with the lawyers that that is their BSN, their banks. So we've got some women who managed to keep their forests up and running mainly because they're still using the materials from the forest.
Any other responses? If not, I mean, the main takeaways and main questions I had was about post-colonial theory, reflectivity, and trying to even define what cultural heritage meant. Who defined what cultural heritage meant? That was my main question that I had. But I think that over the course of our discussion, that's been answered pretty, at least satisfactorily in my eyes, at least. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments that they would like to bring up to our panelists tonight?
Yes. In terms of post-colonial way of post-colonial methodology in preserving and archiving, one of particular I learned with my trip researching about how indigenous people in countries like Australia and New Zealand did is how they reclaim the space of for example, the archive space and try to put their culture ceremony on that space as well, because that ceremony is a part of the ongoing culture. And then also, even though the space is quite modern, it's very tight and it's quite and temperature sensitive and humidity and all so on. But in these people like in Australia and in New Zealand, in Australia, they managed to lead on those time when every time I went there, they lead me with the ceremony of blessing before the opening the very sensitive object that an AI can't even have any chance to take a picture because it's quite sensitive, very cultural, important to the community in those countries, and those kind of event and also practices that be done by the leaders and the elders of indigenous elders, they really inspire me how the museum especially in Malaysia should have indigenous to be there to lead in terms of archiving, preserving, and displaying, and also presenting, because we need the knowledge for indigenous people. At the same time, encourage more young indigenous people to be as leaders in preserving and conserving the culture, and also make the culture can last long time, because I think this is the way we can go forward now in terms of protecting our indigenous culture.
Yes, Claire, go ahead. I see you raised your hand.
Hi, yeah, I just like to chime in a little bit on the status of the archiving in terms of musical heritage. I think this has been quite a big issue in Malaysia, especially when we are dealing with Malaysian universities that don't really have very good archival practices. And many of our musical archives have either been lost or not documented properly. So one of the ways that we have found an approach to doing it is actually doing it as an individual a group called the ICTM, International Council of Traditional Music. So this sort of non-government association have been formed, and we have created a digital archive which is online. But again, this is managed by only a few people who are interested. This is also going back to what Colin said about lack of interest among the younger generation to pursue this area of archiving. So, and also maybe back to what Shak said, that maybe we actually really do need a younger generation who has some interest in, assisting in archival works. Yeah, but the thing is, some of the digital archives has been set up. It's just that funding it and keeping it, sustaining it going is a problem to us now. Yes.
Thank you. I think that's something that's reflected in most of the institutions that are dealing with archiving and preserving Orang Asli cultural heritage, right? Which is the practical concerns. Yes, is there anyone else who wants to bring up any questions or comments about tonight's presentations? No.
Well, if not, we can conclude.
Yeah.
I think
That's all, folks.
Malcolm, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brilliant job moderating. Thank you, panelists. And the video for the symposium will be available on YouTube. I'll send out the link. And also I'm collecting the presentations from all our speakers, which I'll share online. So we'll keep everyone in the loop. Hopefully we'll have some future symposia on archiving and other topics. So from Keene, New Hampshire and Singapore, right? Have a good evening and thank you very much.
Have a good day. Thank you for coming.